right, good afternoon. What I would like to talk to you about is when to emphasize existing versus missing contributions in fundraising. And the answer is that it depends on why people give in the first place, and we probably want to understand people's motivations in order to understand how to best approach them, what message will be the most effective. Charities fundraising campaigns usually present progress. Almost always you see the presentation in one of these two formats where they tend to look at how much has been collected to date. Basically, progress is presented in terms of what have we achieved, not so much in terms of what are we still missing in order to meet the campaign goal. However, when you think about it, there is really no reason to stick to this type of presentations. You can also present how much is still missing to meet the campaign goal. I'm going to ask in my research when is it more effective to highlight one versus the other. Also keep in mind that often they convey the exact same information. So telling people that we are 50% to date, we collected half of the money is pretty much the exact same information as telling people that we are still missing half of the money to meet our campaign goal. And to answer this question, as I mentioned, it's important to ask why people give. Well, first we need to assume that people care for the fundraising goal. If they don't care, then of course they don't give. But even if people care, we know that people don't work very effectively towards group goals, shared goals. There is a lot of social loafing and free riding. And basically what that research tells us is that even though I might feel that the goal is important, I'm hoping that you will give and I don't need to exert my efforts or resources. And so when we try to look at why people do give, why do they decide to participate in this shared goal, two motivations that we identified are expressing commitment and making progress. So people might want to express that they care for the cause, that they believe in the cause. They might also want to make an impact, to make progress on the fundraising goal that is not progressing sufficiently fast. And basically commitment is something that we know people infer from things that have been done, from existing contributions in this case, looking at what has been done, looking at the 50% that has been completed, for example, suggests to me that the cause is important. Here people are giving. Okay, and expectancy of success is high. Okay, here it's working. People are participating. We have a good chance of meeting the goal, and you get increasing commitment. Missing contributions, emphasizing that there is still a lot that is missing, can actually undermine commitment. Okay? It may suggest to people that the cause is not so important. Here, people are not giving, or it's unrealistic. We are unlikely to meet that campaign goal. The other motivation, need for progress, is something that people infer from lack of actions, from missing contributions in the case of fundraising. If I see that there are no enough contributions, I feel that we need to work harder, we need to make progress. Existing contributions can actually signal that we are making sufficient progress and we can slack off. Okay, now why people give may determine what should we emphasize when we approach them. Those who ask whether they are committed will follow others' actions. And for these people, it's a good idea to highlight what has been accomplished to date. Okay, those people who are concerned with making progress, okay, with meeting our goals, will compensate for others' lack of actions, and for these people it is more effective to emphasize here the part that is missing. So the basic predictions that we started with were that those that are not committed, those that are asked, is it important, should they be committed to this group goal, to this campaign, will want to evaluate their commitment and will respond more to messages that emphasize what has been done, okay, how much has been contributed. Those that are already committed will be more sensitive to messages emphasizing missing contributions because they are asking about progress. Similar for identification, those that feel very much like they are part of the group versus not. Let me start with the low identifiers, those that don't feel part of the group, not a strong part of the group, will give more if we emphasize existing contributions. Those who feel that they are already a strong part of the group, it's part of their identity, will give more if we emphasize what is missing. And with that framework in mind, we did our first fundraising study already a few years ago. And we worked then, and we are still working with an organization called Compassion International. And what's interesting about this organization is that they have highly committed donors. Those who are part of Compassion sponsor a child in a developing country. And when you go on the website, you can choose your child. They try to give you some information. What they tell us is that people tend to choose based on attractiveness. They are trying to give them information that will move them towards more relevant dimensions, such as their heart suggests that they've been waiting more than 6 months, and the bow suggests that they are living in an AIDS-affected area. And if you become part of Compassion, then you will sponsor a child and you will give that child about $35 per month, basically to cover all their needs, and that's a big commitment. So that gets us this group of highly committed donors. And we can compare these people to other people who are less committed. What's also good for us working with Compassion is that they have these small campaigns where they are just trying to collect money for a specific cause, and that is something that they do every several months and is outside of this general ongoing campaign that they have been doing for years. So one of these small campaigns that we used was a campaign to raise 10 million won, about $10,000 to help AIDS orphans in Africa. And what we basically do is give people one of these messages which are identical, except that we tell them that about half of the money has been donated versus half of the money is still missing. So the objective information is exactly the same. It is just the emphasis. They usually only go public once they raise half of the money, so it's a good point for us because really either we say half has been collected or half is missing. Will you participate? And we compare these messages among two groups. One is of regular donors, the hot list, those who give every month $35. And the other one is a cold list. Those are people who indicated that they might be interested in becoming part of the network, but they have not contributed anything yet. Okay, so we cross out these two variables, okay, whether you're on the hot or the cold list, and the emphasis on what has been done versus what is missing. That was the average donation in that study. It looks like the cold list is giving more than the hot list. That this is misleading. We don't count the regular donations, so for every person on the right side of this figure, you need to add a bit over $100, which is what they gave throughout the campaign, which lasted for 3 months. What you can see is that for cold list, those who are thinking about giving but didn't give anything yet, emphasizing that to date we have half of the money, is more effective. It's actually 3 times more effective than emphasizing that we are still missing half of the money. Remember, objectively, it's the same information. Okay, for the hot list, it's just the opposite. we actually could not get them to give money when we told them that we already collected half of the money. Okay, very few gave anything. When we told them that we are missing half of the money, we got a relatively large proportion of them to give money. What you see here is the average donation. I could also present you the likelihood of giving, and it's exactly the same pattern. Okay, this is with measuring commitment, comparing cold and hot lists. We were also interested in identification and how that might play out in fundraising. Basically, the psychological theory suggests that when you identify with the group, there is some overlap between you and the group. Okay, so I and my group become very much overlapping, and when there is low identification, then there is a separation. There is me and there is the group, and I don't quite perceive an overlap. And our prediction is that for low group identifiers, those who don't quite see themselves as part of the group, if we emphasize existing contributions, we'll get them to give more than if we emphasize missing contributions. Okay? The reason is that existing contributions suggest that the goal is important, increased commitment. Okay? If people already identify with the group, identification is high, then emphasizing missing contribution will be more effective, because these people are not asking whether the goal is important. It's part of me, of course it's important. They're asking, are we making sufficient progress? Are we moving fast enough? And if the message suggests that not, then they are willing to give more. This is one study that tested for this. We did that, I think that about a year after the earthquake in Haiti. We asked people, these were university students, to send messages to their friends to increase the awareness of the situation there. We measure their identification with the group, okay, that is with the other university students, the people that were working together to increase awareness to the problem. And we either told them that we already have a certain number of people that were contacted, or that we are missing some people. And in both situations, we say this is the total number of contacts we wish to get. We got half of them, or we are still missing half. Basically, what this pattern here suggests is that for the high identifiers, those that feel that their identity is very much tied to the identity of the university, of the other students that work together to increase awareness of the situation in Haiti, emphasizing missing contributions, okay, here remaining contacts, okay, leads them to contact more people. Then we emphasize existing contributions, the number of people that were already contacted. And we get a slight reversal for the low identification, although that here did not reach significance. We did another study to test the same hypothesis, but this time instead of identification with the group of other donors, the identification is with the victims. Okay, so this time people either think about the recipients of the help as part of themselves, okay, or as a separate group. That was in 2008 after the Kenya riots. Basically, there was quite some violence there after the election, which was not exactly as it should have been, but I will not get to that story. We, again, with the Compassion Korea, worked on getting money there to help Compassion children, that is children that are sponsored by Compassion in Kenya. And we either frame the message as their crisis, okay, it's somewhere far away, or it's our crisis. So the whole message, which I will not read to you, talks about either compassion children in Kenya that is like far away, they are suffering from the violence, post-election riot. There have been increasing violence in Africa, and it's the problem there, as opposed to it's our children. They are suffering from the violence in our world, and these are our children that we should take care of. Okay, and again, we manipulate whether we tell them that we collected half of the money or that we are still missing half of the money. This is how much money they gave. Here is presented in one. Actually, this campaign was much less successful overall than the previous campaign. We collected less money than before. What was important for us is that we got the exactly same pattern of people giving more when you present information about accumulated contributions for the low identifiers and missing contributions for the high identifiers. So tailoring the message, knowing whether to emphasize what has been achieved versus what is still missing, turn out to be crucial. Some of you may wonder whether there is something about the 50%, whether it works also for other levels of progress. Yes, we tried that in 20%, in 50%, and in 80%, and we get the same effect. We do also find a small area effect, which we published last year, and I'm not going to get into too many details about that. Basically, the small area effect suggests that if you are at the beginning here, okay, then it makes sense. Okay, it's more effective to emphasize what has been accumulated, the small area. Okay, and if you're toward the end here, then it will be more effective to emphasize what's missing. The idea is that people prefer to work in a small area because any contribution will look like it has greater impact. This effect is independent of identification and commitment, which is what I discuss here. Okay, this is the research that is already published. Some work that we now think about and run more studies and write looks at how much people give and what percentage of the people that are being approached give as a function of why they give. And basically our analysis suggests that those who wish to make a difference, those who think about progress, would be willing to invest more resources, okay, than those that are expressing commitment, which means that we should expect large contributions, but from fewer people. Okay, those who wish to express their support, to say that they care, they are looking for more symbolic giving, and they will invest less resources, and we should expect small contributions from many people. Our specific predictions with this line of studies, which I will only briefly describe, is that we'll get, in terms of response rate, more people responding to campaigns that emphasize express your support versus making a difference. Okay, but the average contribution would be lower for expressing support, or the other way around, larger for making a difference compared to express support. We also find evidence for fit. When we expect low effort, it is more effective to ask people to express support. Okay, when we expect people to give $1 or $5 or just to sign a petition. When we expect high effort, when we expect people to give their time, to volunteer, to give more significant amount of money for them, then messages about making difference are more effective. I don't have time to go into much data here, so let me just show you the result of some campaign that we ran without describing the details of the campaign. In terms of effort, okay, how much people do, they do more when we say make a difference as opposed to just help, control, or express your support. Okay? In terms of participation ratio, we get people to participate more. 82% of the population participate with express your support, only about 50 or 60% when we talked about help and making a difference. We'll skip that. The last thing that I will say is that we find that when we ask people to do a lot of work, to write a petition letter to 7 recipients, for example, versus small work, just write one letter, it's more effective to talk about making a difference. Okay, when we expect a low effort, it is more effective to talk about expressing support. This is what you see here. High effort request, okay, 48% agreed when we talked about making a difference. Low effort request, 70% of the participants agreed when we asked to express support. Okay, so 2 motivations for charitable actions: expressed commitment versus making progress. Messages that emphasize existing versus missing contributions will increase commitment for those who ask about that, those that are unsure, those that are low identifiers. Messages that maximize missing contributions would be more effective for the committed, for the high identifiers. And messages that emphasize support versus impact will elicit smaller, often symbolic contributions from many people. All right, thank you. And also would like to mention that this work is with Ming-Jiang Ku, who's actually the first author on most of it. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions while Adam starts to set up here?
Does it make any difference if it's like a capital project, like you're building a building, the building's already it's been financed by a bridge loan or something? Whether you're, how you ask people and how they respond. Like it's already in process, the money is there, but you need to pay back that money,
So you approach people who are already invested, or that you are already invested and you approach them?
You approach both those groups of people, but the building is already under construction, it has a bridge loan, it's financed with bonds, so you're really basically filling up a piggy bank to pay down the bonds.
Yeah. I think that it makes it more, even more likely that it would be useful to talk about missing contributions, because the problem with missing contribution is that often it's arbitrary, because your campaign goal may have been arbitrary to begin with, but if you can show that, well, I need to build a building and that's the cost, then it's even easier to say either I have 40% or I'm missing 60%. Okay, and then you need to approach different people in different ways. Yes?
This approach seems complementary to the research on positive or negative framing of the cause. That is, do you emphasize how much good your gift can do, or what will happen if you don't give? And that gives us a 2-by-2 possibility, emphasizing the funds positively or negatively and the cause positively or negatively.
Yes, that's an interesting idea. We didn't do so much with the negative and the positive. And our messages are pretty minimal with this respect. We don't find it.
If you emphasize the money you still have to get, that's a more negative framing.
Yes, I was about to say just that no, saying I'm missing half sounds negative. It's not the kind of negativity like talking about what will happen to these kids if we don't support them. Okay, they will not have education and health and so on. But it's still the glass half empty. Okay, so I'm not sure it will be complete 2-by-2, or maybe the negativity will have the same effect as the missing actions, and we need to test that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.